13th, 2021 meeting of the Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Una Johnson,
Brett Feldman,
Dustin Pastor,
Lynn Hertag,
Sam Decker,
David Farrell.
also in attendance this evening from legal, we have Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. From development coordination, we have Anastasia Barnes and Eileen Rosario. From natural resources, we have Owen Williamson. Maybe? No? Do we have anyone from? Oh, Steve Easter? Eister. All right, I always guess that wrong. And from transportation, Jonathan Scott. There are some procedural rules that you need to follow due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Do we still have these procedural rules in place for COVID? Yes? Yes. Yes, okay. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, please adhere to safe social distancing as set within the room. Please maintain wearing facial masks at all times. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and if you have been sworn in. The petitioner and or your agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods, as stated, will be kept by the board. Any information, such as pictures or plans, that have not been previously submitted as part of your petition and you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. A variance granted by the board will only be for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms and conditions as stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years before the date of decision, 2 years from the date of the decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either the next month's VRB board agenda or the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the variance review board's decision reviewed by the city council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 10 business days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 10 days review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion from one of the board members to approve last month's meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, motion passes. All right. At this time, I will ask legal staff to please confirm whether there are any ex parte communications or any conflicts among any board members.
Good evening, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the commissioners please state, board members please state whether or not they have had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda?
I'll do this for both of these. For VRB 21-80, I have been told, so it's been communicated to me that one of my colleagues is an agent on this petition, and I will therefore be recusing myself from VRB 21-80.
And just for the record, you did fill out the disclosure form, and I did hand that to the clerk who will be putting that with the record. Thank you.
Correct.
Any other board members have any ex parte communications, or now at this time, anyone have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? Thank you so much.
All right. At this time, I would ask staff to please conduct the swearing in. And for members of the audience, if there is a chance that you might speak tonight, any possible chance that you might come up to the microphone and say a few words, Please stand up and be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, terrific. Are we ready for the first case?
Well, we do have to have a motion regarding one item that asked to be continued,
Okay, let's go for it.
and that's VRB 2183. The request from the applicant or the agent is to move this case to the August 10th, 2021 public hearing at 6:30. If there could just be a motion regarding that.
Okay, can we have a motion, please, to continue the hearing to August 10th?
I move that case BRB 21-83 for property located at 2901 West Swan Avenue be moved to the Variance Review Board meeting on August 10th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Terrific. Second, anyone?
Second.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Farrell. All right, let's have a vote, please. All those in favor of continuance, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, motion passes, and VRB 2183 is continued. Okay, does that bring us to VRB 20-69?
Good evening, Anastasia Barnes with Development Coordination. The first application you're seeing tonight is VRB 2069. The applicant and agent is James Montjoy. The property owner is Jose La Puenta. The property address is 5805 South Gordon Avenue. The current zoning is RS60, and the request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 4 feet and reduce the side yard setback from 7 feet to 5.5 feet to accommodate a new accessory structure in accordance with section 27-156 and 27-290. There was a prior case, VRB 0974, that was denied to reduce in 2009 to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 to 5 feet and side yard from 7 to 4 feet for an accessory building. This is an aerial view with the surrounding, with the subject property and surrounding.
Can you please put that on our screens?
Oh, it's not? Oh, no, so sorry.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, so this is the aerial view with the subject property and the surrounding zoning. As you can see, largely residential in nature. This is a picture, or two pictures of the subject property as it is currently. This is a revised site plan that was received today and was handed out to the board members as well, showing the proposed garage. And these are the elevations that were proposed, and staff is available for any questions you may have.
Okay. Is that all, Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
That's it? Okay.
Also, just you also received a letter of support for VRB 2069.
All right, terrific. And the applicant is here and ready to go?
Yes, ready to go.
All right.
Thank you very
You have
much.
10 minutes.
My name is James F. Montjoy Jr. My office address is 8910 North Del Mabry Highway, Suite 23, Tampa, Florida, 33614. Tonight we're
And
here.
You've been sworn.
Yes, I have been sworn in.
Terrific, thank you.
Tonight, before the board, we present our variance for the site address of 5805 South Gordon Avenue. It's located in South Tampa, near Bay Shore and the Bay. Mr. LaPuente has owned this house for quite some time. The original architect of the project was Peter Tagliari, was the architect who also designed the accessory structure back in 2009. The purpose of this variance is that we need to have the setback from 7 to 5 feet in the rear, and then the side yard setback to 5.5 feet, due to the fact that the existing structure that is located at the house, or the two-car garage that's there, is severely damaged by termites, but also the hardship is based upon the client's mother, whose husband is in an ALF living facility, and there's a substantial chance that she's going to need to move into the residence, which Mr. Lupinte has a bedroom that he wants to move his mother in, which he uses as an office. So this new structure will have a garage, but then it will have an upstairs accessory for him to move his office out of the house so he can securely accommodate his mother as she moves into the house. I have a picture of the existing structure that shows a staircase.
There. You did dot cam?
There it is.
Okay, there it is. The existing structure currently has a staircase that's going up to the roof deck, but they want to turn that roof deck into the accessory structure for the house. We have to move the staircase. We're going to demo the existing building and then construct this new 1,222 square feet approximately existing structure at the existing residence.
Do you have more to present?
I guess I was going to solicit if you have any questions for me right now. I can go deeper.
Okay, well, you get 10 minutes to present.
Okay.
We don't get to ask questions until
Okay.
after any members of the audience may have spoken, if any, and then you would get a rebuttal.
Oh, okay.
During that question and answer period, we can have those questions.
Okay.
But you have 6.5 more minutes.
More minutes to go, okay.
To use however you wish.
All right, so going back to the hardship, the variance is being requested so that the client be able to take care of his elderly mother in a better way, as expected that she will require more assistance in the future. And that's meaning that she will be inside the existing house using his existing office at the house, but moving his office to the accessory structure on top of the new garage that needs to be reconstructed due to his damage. We feel that the design is going to stay in harmony with the existing house per the design originally by the architect, Mr. Tagliari, and that it gives him the opportunity to still be able to work at home and take care of his mother in the house where the family members will be around her and take care of her during times of her needs. We also believe that the intent and the purpose of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan and this chapter is to aid and promote the public health and safety. Granting of the variance will meet with all detailed hardships above and will create a separate office space, but able to maintain the mother in the house safely. And so it will be in harmony with the general intent of the purpose, as well as the goals and objectives and policies of both the city comprehensive plan and this chapter. This requested to increase the square footage to about 1122, and also the height to 20 feet will accommodate everything that the owner needs on site for that new structure. That completes my
That completes your presentation. All right. Well, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this petition? No? Seeing none? All right. Are there any? I'll open it up for board questions or comments. Any board questions? Mr. Pastor?
So the structure you're proposing is occupying the same footprint as an existing building
Yes, sir.
that sits in the same spot at the same size?
Well, it's gonna move, no, technically, it's gonna move 2 feet forward in the driveway so that it accommodates that 5.5, with the staircase being in that 5.5 setback. If the staircase was at the original location, we would be over the setback. So now creating that move of the structure 2 feet, so then we have that 5.5, then that accommodates, the design to what the variance is looking for.
Okay, so it's reducing the degree of variance over what it is today.
Right.
Okay, and then of course you're adding a story to it, but the footprint is the same size,
Size,
2 feet
right.
further away from the
From the
property
fence line, from the property line.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, that's my question.
I have a couple of questions for staff, maybe. So I see on our, notice that it's a variance to reduce the setbacks. Is it also a variance to increase the height of the accessory structure?
So section 290, it states that if it's, the square footage of an accessory structure is greater than 15% of the minimum district lot size, that it has to meet principal building setbacks. In addition, the height is also a reason as well.
So because the variance will comply with principal structure setbacks, we do not need to approve the height variance?
Correct.
Okay. Second question for staff. I see that there was a prior case that was denied in 2009 for similar setbacks. Was there a variance that was approved?
No, not that I'm aware of. That prior case was VRB 0974, and it was to reduce the rear yard from 20 feet to 5 feet and side yard setback from 7 feet to 4 feet for an accessory building.
Okay. Mr. Montjoy, do you know when this accessory structure that is being rebuilt was constructed?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it for my questions.
Okay, any other questions?
I just have one question. So the garage, the purpose or the second floor is an office space?
Yes.
Not a dwelling? It's just
Not a what
It's
now?
an office space.
It's an office space.
All right, last call for questions. If not, I'll turn it back over to you for any rebuttal if you'd like.
No rebuttal.
Okay. All right, well, then we appreciate it. Let's close up the public hearing and open it up for a motion or comments if necessary. But it looks like Mr. Pastor is ready to roll.
Yeah, I would just say that the point about the mother moving in is not criteria that we can consider a hardship because it's not based upon the property or the uniqueness of the property. However, this is an existing structure that's being rebuilt and improved upon the current location. So for that reason, I would make a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 2069 for the property located at 5805 South Gordon Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 4 feet and a reduction in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 5.5 feet to accommodate a new rebuild of an accessory structure with an encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record and of this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this is an existing structure that's being rebuilt due to damage and the size of the footprint is the same and the structure will be moved further away from the property line, therefore reducing the degree of variance needed.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Pastor, second by Ms. Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? Your motion passes 6-0. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Barnes, it's up to you for VRB 2127. Oh, this one is, yeah, okay.
Anastasia Barnes, the next case before you is 2127. The applicant and property owner is Noah Trinklin, and the agent is David Wright. The property address is 695 Geneva Place. The zoning is RS 60, and the request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet. As you know, this case came before you and only a portion was approved, and so this is the portion that's going to be heard again as a result of a tie vote. The purpose is to construct a single-family dwelling. This is the aerial of the subject property with surrounding zoning. Again, the site plan that you've seen previously, and the elevations that the applicant submitted as well. There was a revised hardship criteria that was handed out to you earlier this evening, and that has been placed into the record. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
Terrific. Thank you very much. All right, applicant, please proceed. Please state your name, address, and confirm you've been sworn.
Good evening, board members. My name is David Wright.
Hold on a second.
Thank you. David Wright with TSP Companies, P.O. Box 1016, Tampa, Florida 33601. I'm the agent, and this is the applicant, Noah Trinklin. So we'll both probably be giving you a little bit of testimony tonight. I have been sworn. Thank you. Basically, as Ms. Barnes explained, this variance request included a couple of variances. One of them was approved last month. We're back here for the rear yard setback. We've revised our hardship criteria responses, and I'm just going to go through those before you. For number one, the alleged hardship and practical difficulties are unique and singular with respect to the specific single-family residential lot, and that the property was originally platted as a corner lot requiring a rear yard setback at the north side of the long, narrow north-south oriented lot, which is effectively functions as a side yard. I'd like to point out that the adjacent lot to the north has the same situation, and that house also encroaches into the setback. In order to construct the new proposed residential structure consisting of a main residential structure and a two-car garage, while attempting to replicate the prior residential structure's garage site plan location and continuing to provide mitigating and effective open space while minimizing the residential site plan's impact to the northern neighboring property, the two-car garage site plan location and spacing creates the need to encroach 15 feet into the 20-foot rear yard setback, which effectively functions as a side yard. Additionally, due to FEMA regulations being applied to the new proposed residential structure, finished floor elevation, the proposed site plan's layout is utilizing a transitional open space connection between the main residential structure and the garage guest suite structure portions of the residence to serve both as a finished floor elevation equalizer between the two separate structures and to create an outdoor activity and landscape open space and area consisting of approximately 1,000 square feet at the midpoint of the site. Said circumstances are not common with the other properties or structures similarly located. The hardship and practical difficulty is the result of the subject platted corner lot requirements of the rear yard setback being applied to the lot's effectively functioning side yard, and the applicant's limitation of having to comply with FEMA finished floor elevation threshold requirements, which are applied to the proposed residential structures, thereby requiring innovative site plan design options. Therefore, these factors are beyond the control of the applicant and therefore not a self-imposed hardship. The variance, if granted, will not substantially interfere with or injure the health, safety, or welfare of others whose property would be affected by allowance of the variance, as applicant's lot rear yard, which effectively functions as a side yard, has only one primary abutting lot to the north. Said abutting lot structure has also utilized its adjoining rear yard as a side yard from a setback perspective, creating a harmonious set of compatible abutting setbacks. Additionally, said adjoining lot owner has expressed support to the applicant's requested variance, and that letter of support should be in your package. Therefore, said variance will not have any adverse effect on the adjacent property. The variance is in harmony with and serves the general intent and purpose of this chapter and the adopted Tampa Comprehensive Plan, in that the chapter and plan's stated intent is to set forth requirements regarding minimum setback requirements in order to maintain the quality of life in the city and protect the health, safety, welfare, and general well-being of the citizens in the city. The additional 15-foot encroachment into the rear yard setback, which effectively functions as a side yard, does not compromise the intent of the chapter or plan or the maintaining of the quality of life in the city. If approved, the reduced yard setback will still provide an equivalent side yard setback and will continue to protect the health, safety, welfare, and general well-being of the citizens of the city, as well as being consistent and compatible with the adjoining northern property. The allowance of the variance requested will result in substantial justice being done, considering both the public benefits intended to be secured by the comprehensive plan and the chapter and the individual hardships that will be suffered by a failure to grant this variance, as detailed in the responses above. A reasonable use of the property can be achieved with the approval of this variance request. That's all I had, Jim.
Okay, I appreciate that. Did you have any comments, or are you just here to answer questions?
I'm mostly expert in the property.
Fair enough. Okay, if that completes your presentation,
Yes, sir.
I'll go ahead and open it up to see if anyone in the audience wants to comment on this application. Anyone? No? All right. Let's open it up for board questions. Anyone on the board have any questions? Nope. All right. Well, you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes for rebuttal if you should choose to use it.
We'll pass, thank you.
Okay. Well, then let's move it back. We'll close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or any comment from the boards. Anyone?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Farrell?
All right, move that the variance requests for case VRB 2127 for the property located at 695 Geneva Place be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in rear yard setback from 20 feet to 4 feet.
5.
Excuse me, 5. Oh, excuse me, reading above, sorry. Reduce rear yard setback from 20 to 5 for the construction of a new single-family development based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in 2780 of the city code, specifically that being a corner lot, and being a corner lot, being a corner lot, there is hardship in the development of a corner lot, and I think the applicant certainly adequately displayed that they had done all they could to satisfy all of the practical criteria that the code had enforced, but in fact has certainly done a nice job and basically mirrored what the neighbor to the north is doing, and so thereby creating a harmonious development along that section of street.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Anyone? I'll second it. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Unfortunately, your motion does not pass. You have 10 days, 10 business days from the written decision to challenge it with the city council if you should choose.
Can we put it off? Is there another setback we can
The action,
request?
this has been voted on, so we have to go to council or file a new application for a variance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Okay. Moving on to VRB 21-47.
Good evening, Anastasia Barnes. This case before you is 2147. The applicant and agent is Alan Dobbs. The property owner is Benjamin Goodson. The address is 2606 North Ridgewood Avenue. The current zoning is RS 50, and the request is to reduce the south side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet 6 inches in accordance with section 27-156 to build a residential addition to a single-family dwelling. This is the aerial of the subject site, along with the surrounding zoning, largely residential in nature. These are photos of the property. And this is the site plan that was submitted. And I am available for any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you very much. Are you Mr. Dobbs?
Yes, so my name is Alan Dobbs. I'm the agent for the property owner. I'm with Florida Design Studio. My address is 5502 North Cherokee Avenue, 33604.
And you've been
I
sworn.
have been sworn, sorry.
Sorry.
So this property is a very unique property, similar, I guess, in the last previous case, because it is a corner lot, but it's an odd corner lot because it's triangular, so it really has no rear property line. And in this area in Riverside Heights, a lot of these streets like Charter and Ridgewood and some other streets go at angles, so it sort of creates these odd shaped lots. I'm going to go to this. And you can see, that's a unique lot, that's unique, and that one is unique. This one is much larger, this one obviously is much smaller, but this is the property right here. So it definitely is unique and singular, this lot. Because of the property configuration, this is really the rear setback. The driveway is on this side. So if they ever want to do like a detached accessory building or a garage, really the only opportunity is to do it in this area. So it wasn't feasible to do an addition over the existing house, just because it's a small 1,000 square foot house, 2 bedrooms and a really small office up front. So really the only place to do an addition was this area, but because of the triangular form and then the rectilinear form conflicting, there's this one little corner right here where we're over the property line. And just to kind of help you understand that we're doing the minimal possible, as I said, this is a 2-bedroom with an office. One of the bedrooms is going to be converted to a laundry utility room because the house doesn't have a laundry utility room. Right now it's a stacked washer and dryer in the kitchen. And there's really no master suite. I do a lot of projects on historic homes, and the most common thing is people are adding a master suite to their home. And this is really the only opportunity to do it. So the existing bedroom that was here gets converted to a laundry utility room, and then like a little foyer or antichambre that goes into the master bedroom area up here, a little bay window up front to kind of break up the addition from the existing. and then a relatively small master bath, and then again, you can see the corner there that is encroaching on the setback. So, again, you know, with the criteria 1 or hardship 1, it's definitely unique and singular, and it's not, this kind of problem is not in common with a lot of the adjacent properties. And then obviously, because of the configuration of the lot, the hardship is not the result of any actions by the applicant. And then the variance, if granted, it will not interfere with any adjacent property owners because it's actually an alley that runs along the side there where the addition is, so it won't affect any adjacent property owners. And it's certainly in harmony with and serves the general intent and purpose of the chapter and the adopted comprehensive plan, because it's just basically allowing a single-family residence to be modified for a use that is more feasible and desirable. And then the last criteria is, and I'll just read my response. The variance will allow the addition of a modest-sized bedroom and bathroom in a neighborhood where most of the homes can accommodate this type of addition without a variance. The variance would provide relief and substantial justice and allow the hardships and practical difficulties to be addressed. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this petition? All right, seeing none, open it up for board questions, if any. Going once, going twice. All right, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, I'll waive that.
Thank you. Okay, let's open it up for motion, please.
I move that case, well, I'll just say that odd lots like this are kind of the reason that the variance board is here to review, and this one is certainly unique. I move that case variance request VRB 2147 for the property located at 2606 North Ridgewood Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for reduction in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3.5 feet with encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this lot is unique and singular. This is an old home that was not created by the homeowner, and that they are requesting a very minimal addition with a very minimal encroachment into a small section of the setback to accommodate the odd shape of the lot.
Second.
All right.
Sorry. It was a race.
All right, Mr.
Smith.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, your motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farrell. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Barnes, we'll go to 2150.
VRB 2150 is for Italo Mera. The agent is Todd Brittenhar. The property address is 5223 South Puritan Avenue. The current zoning is RS60, and the request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 12 feet in accordance with section 27156 to build a residential addition to an existing single-family residence. This is the subject site, surrounded by single-family and multifamily, and some commercial as well. This is a picture of the subject site, and this is a revised survey that you received in a handout earlier today showing the requested new setbacks. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Applicant, please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn.
Good evening. My name is Todd Brittenhar. I'm the agent for Utelamera, and my address is 3213 West Parkland Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33609. And I was in the bullpen downstairs, so I have not been sworn in.
That's why we ask.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. We are requesting a setback to add a master bedroom to this private residence. The addition is going to be in the back of the property, reducing your reduction from 20 feet to 12 feet on the rear line. The home is unique in the fact that it's surrounded by oak trees, and the big oak trees branches go over the top of the property. The owner is a sheriff deputy, and he's been in the property, his second generation in his property, and his family he has 3 children in there, and he needs to add additional living space. The ability to go up would be extremely costly and also would require some variance for trees. So the issues that we decided to do is try to see if we could add the setback, have a reduction in the setback on the rear property line, which backs up to the properties on McDill, which are commercial. So this property line, the back of these property kind of backs up to dumpsters. There's the Korean restaurant to the left. Actually, it's up for sale right now. But those are commercial properties that are utilized. And the whole intent of this is the keeping with the original intent of the structure was for a family residence. So adding this master bedroom addition to the back of the property would give them ample space. The current owners have a teenage daughter and 2 young children, and adding a master bedroom on this side would give them a split floor plan, a little privacy. We would not interfere with any trees. We would not be encroaching really on any of the neighbors, because both property lines on the side setback and the back rear setback, as we see this, are commercial properties. I don't really have anything else to add to that. It's pretty simple and basic. We chose the lesser of 2 evils, I think, by saving the trees and trying to go in the back where we didn't think would impact any of the other properties.
All right, thank you very much. Does that conclude your presentation this evening?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this presentation? Seeing none, I'll open it up for board questions. Any questions?
I have a quick question. In looking at the design, you went back instead of following the side of the house or following the back of the house because of a tree? Is that what I'm understanding?
There's there's an easement back there. There's trees on both sides, and the trees in the front yard is a giant oak tree that has the branches that go over the single-story home. This is in a FEMA flood zone, and so the tree is much lower than what it would be. The home is lower than what it is, and the branches extend over it. So yes, we went back on the back part. There's an existing kind of bonus room there that we're going to extend and make that into a master bedroom.
Okay, so so the tree would go over the main residence, which is why you can't just push back the bulk of it. Just extend the rectangle that's already there.
The bulk in the middle, actually, that's where all the plumbing and clean out valves and everything else, that would require us to do some more and additional costing. That, as I mentioned, there was a sheriff deputy, so we're trying to confine ourselves with the budgetary concerns. And this was the simplest way to have an addition on without having to reroute a bunch of plumbing.
So you said that there's a bonus room there currently?
If you look at the structure that is being proposed, it extends right back. That back part of the house is a part of a bonus room and utility room that's there. So we would just be extending that, basically removing the back wall of the house and extending the house further back in the same direction of what it currently is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal, should you choose to use it.
The only thing I'd say is I would request that the board hopefully approve this, because it would really help out another member of the community who's a sheriff deputy working on a limited budget, and he can't afford really to move anywhere else in the South Tampa community to keep his kids in the same school district. So this was the one viable option. We had many different proposals to him and his family. This was the one we thought would fit within his budget and also had the least impact to the environment of the trees.
All right, thank you very much. With that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board or board discussion.
Ms. Hurtak, I thought that that was like a good question. I had the same question, because it does look like, if you kind of rotated the proposed extension kind of sideways, that maybe it could still fit within the setbacks, of the property, without the need for a variance. I'm inclined to approve this, and I'll make a motion in just a second, but, because I think that if you were to turn it, this is a uniquely shaped property, and, I think that there's a chance that you butt up against the setbacks on the side of the property. So I'm, together with the other hardship criteria that I'll mention, I'm okay with this variance. So with that, I move that variance requests for case VRB 21-50 for property located at 5223 South Puritan Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 12 feet with an encouragement for eaves and gutters based on the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the property is uniquely shaped, and as such, there is less building room than would otherwise be available on a property within this zoning district. Additionally, it will not, this variance, if granted, will not substantially interfere with the health, safety, or welfare of those who would be affected by the variance because the adjacent properties are commercial in nature, and there is a tree buffer between this property and the rear property that would be most affected.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, your motion is approved, 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Barnes, you're up.
The next application before you is 2153. The property is located at 7102 North 40th Street. The agent is Elizabeth Morales. The current zoning is CG, Commercial General. The request is to reduce the front yard setback from 10 feet to 1 feet 9 inches to allow an attached canopy for a commercial business. And the prior cases, there is a current code case, 193425, that was opened in 2019 for the covered structure. And so that is cited. This is an aerial map of the subject property with surrounding zoning. And this is a 2019 street view of the canopy in question. And this is the site plan that was provided in your packet as well, showing where it's going to the existing building is going to have to be partially removed because currently is in the right-of-way. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Applicant, please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn.
My name is Elizabeth Morales. My husband, Abdel Razak. We have not been sworn in.
Okay.
My address, 7102 North 40th Street, Tampa, Florida, 33604.
All right, thank you. Let's get you sworn in. And if there's anyone else in the audience who hasn't been sworn, please stand. We'll swear you in now at this time.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, you have 10 minutes to present your hardships.
Okay, as we explained to you before, we purchased the property as it is, unaware that it was gonna take us to this, bring us to this situation. The reason we purchased it was because it was clean, organized, and it was the perfect environment for workers and customers. We have 6 people at this location. And during the weather, during the summer, especially when it rains a lot, we really, really do need a canopy so it can protect, you know, the employees and customers and allow us to work on their vehicles. As far as we know, there are only 3 residential homes on that street. The rest of them are commercial. It is a dead end. And because of the shape of that land, I believe there is an area where the setback is actually higher than the 1.9. I believe that the 1.9 was measured at the corner, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I was told by the officer who initially came to do the inspection. However, we are here to tell you guys whatever we need to do to come into compliance that would allow us to keep some kind of space so we can protect our workers and be able to continue to provide jobs and, you know, businesses for the city of Tampa. We'd be more than welcome to comply.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Pretty much, unless my husband has something to say. By the way, we were completely unaware. My husband is the mechanic and I'm the administrator, so we had no clue as to what we were getting into.
Well, welcome to the Variance Board.
Yes.
Sir, do you have anything you wanted to contribute? You still have some time.
I want to say, you know, Florida here, I'm a 25 years mechanic, you know, we working outside, you know, and it's very hot, you know, we cannot leave, you know, with no canopy, you know, except we in Florida, you know, and rain too much, you know, 5 minutes, 20 minutes rain, you know, the canopy that it protect us even is not keep the water go inside the shop. At least, you know, it keep me safe, you know, for lighting, you know, safe for rain, you know, customers not run, you know, because of rain, you know, that's the best thing. And I'm try always keep my property around the neighbor clean. I cut the glass, you know, keep it looks nice, because every neighbor is happy, because when you see the shop, always I'm cleaning. I keep people cut the glass, you know, make sure you go some employment, turn around, make sure no garbage, no nothing, keep the fence clean, you know, always a pressure wash, you know, around the property to keep, you know, looks nice. And you see that the last picture I have, you know, and you guys decide.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this petition? All right, seeing none, let's open it up for board questions. Mr. Pastor?
You said you bought the property like this. Did you buy the property with this canopy already installed?
Yes, and we actually asked the previous owner who had built the fence, and he wouldn't give us any numbers except the number of the people that created a survey. So we actually contacted the people that created the survey, and they redid the survey for us. So that was the only trace back that we were able to do.
Okay. On the plan that you have up there, it looks like the part of the canopy towards the front of the business is narrower and it gets wider towards the back. But in the photograph, it looks like it's a rectangle. How is it actually on the site?
It's because of the position of the picture,
Yeah.
but if you look at the aerial, you can see that the property is wider, and then it comes to the slim part
Yeah.
towards the end. And it was because I believe when they redid the 40th Street, they cut part of it, and this is the reason that the property is slanted.
Okay. And then I just had a question for Ms. Barnes. Did you say that, Ms. Barnes, they're going to have to remove part of it anyway because it conflicts with the property line, or did you not say that?
Correct, yeah, so part of it is within the right-of-way, and as depicted on the site plan, it says partial removal and adjustment of canopy structure. That's, the request is at the smallest part, the 1 feet 9 inches, as you see on the site plan. So that's what they're gonna have to remove partially remove the current structure, so it's not in the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
I have two quick follow-up questions. The first one is, you said that there was a taking of 40th Street?
I'm sorry?
North 40.
North 40th,
Yeah.
but not North 41st, is that?
Well,
is that-
they made that street, because I believe it was not that wide. That's
Okay.
what I've been told. I'm only telling you what I've been told.
Okay, fair enough. And then second, just for the record, you know, this is a triangular shaped property, which seems a little bit unique, and based on the aerial that we've got, it doesn't look like there are other properties in the area that are shaped like this.
That's the only property on the side.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
All right, any other questions for the applicants? Okay, if you need it, you have a few more minutes to present anything else that you need to say. If you feel like any of the questions raised anything that you need to respond to, you have a couple of minutes to do that now.
My only question is that if you know, since I know that is on city property, we are willing to sign whatever you guys will require if at any point there is a need to be removed, or, you know, you guys need to use your area, we can sign anything to allow the city to take over.
I appreciate that, but all we can do tonight is just approve or deny or modify the request. Once that's been done, in terms of coming into compliance with other requirements of the city, you'll have to do that, but at a subsequent time. So you'll deal with different departments of the city, however we move forward. But if we are able to approve this tonight, then you'll get what you're asking for, and then you'll have to address the other things, the part that goes into the right-of-way, things like that.
Understood.
Okay. So did you have any other? Yes.
Yeah, so the site plan submitted shows that partial removal, and it will need to be partially removed, so it's out of the right-of-way. So that's, if you approve or deny it, that's what you were approving or denying. No portion can be within the right-of-way.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So I think, to be more clear, the question is, you're not supposed to be within 10 feet of the property line. And you're obviously right up to the property line. There's nothing this board can do to grant encroachment into the actual city property over your property line. So one way or another, that'll have to be removed back to the property line. What you're asking us is for the right to encroach into that 10 feet up to the property line.
If it's possible,
If
you
it's
know,
possible,
if it's
and
not,
that's what we'll vote on. But anything over the property line, we can't approve, nobody can approve. So it would
Understood.
have to come back. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Did you have any other comments? Anything else you need to talk about?
No, we do not.
All right, great. Well, with that then, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for motion.
I'll make a motion unless anybody feels they need to speak. Okay. I move that variance request for case VRB 2153 for the property located at 7102 North 40th Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for reduction in the front yard. It says setback from 10 feet to 1 foot 9 with the encroachment of eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this property is certainly unique and singular, that the situation was not created by the applicant. They purchased the property this way. They are going to comply with the city's request to reduce back to the property line, and that this is a primarily commercial neighborhood, and that the setback in question is along a public street.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Decker. All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? No? All right, your motion is approved, 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Decker. Moving right along, Ms. Barnes.
Anastasia Barnes, the next case before you is VRB 2154. The property owner is James Song and Eric Newcomer, and the applicant is Bruno Ganon. The subject address is 202 North Manhattan Avenue, Unit 2. The current zoning is RM 18, residential multifamily. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 15 feet to 7 feet 7 inches, reduce the side north yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet 11 inches, and reduce the south side yard setback from 7 feet to 4 feet 7 inches for an attached pergola in accordance with section 27-156. This is an aerial view of the subject property, and these are 2019 aerial or street views, Google Street Views of the property along the rear and the front. This is the proposed site plan showing the attached pergola addition, and the standard for the variance review board, and I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, terrific. Applicant, if you would please state your name, your address, and confirm you've been sworn.
Yep, James Sang, 202 North Manhattan Avenue, number 2, Tampa, Florida, 33609, and I've been sworn.
All right, you have 10 minutes.
Yep, so I'm the property owner here. What we're requesting is, are the setback reductions that Ms. Barnes had detailed. What we're building is attached pergola. The site plan, it's about 12 feet by 18 feet. Our hardship is that we bought the residence as is. The developer that we purchased it from had utilized the property itself from front to back. We didn't know at the time we purchased the property that that something like this would be required to put a pergola up in the backyard. The situation is unique in that, and not something that we created, in that we purchased the property the way that it was from the developer. That's it.
All right, did you want to talk a little bit about the size of the property so we understand? Because you mentioned that you were talking about the use of the front to back. How wide is your property?
It is 28 feet wide. So the property type, or the construction type, is a townhouse, which is why the space is utilized the way that it is. With other homes in the area, they're much shorter, that don't go as far back as these townhomes do. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, does that conclude your presentation then?
It does.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments from the audience. Anyone in the audience have any comments on this petition? All right, seeing none, I will open it up for questions from the board.
Does anyone just have an elevation of what that's going to look like? An architectural elevation of how you're attaching it to the house, so we can get a perspective of that?
I don't have anything documented, but the structure itself is about 10 feet tall, and it's the dimensions that are on the site plan, 18 by 12 feet.
And you need this variance because you're attaching it to the house?
Correct.
To clarify, and maybe this is Ms. Barnes' question, so these setbacks, or sorry, this variance is required because the pergola is not going to be directly attached to the principal residence, is that right?
It is directly attached to the open porch, so that's what he's requesting. I believe, no, I can't remember. I don't know if there was, if it was ever detached, but I don't want to get to hypotheticals. So these are the setbacks required for an attached pergola.
Okay, so just to clarify, if it were part of the the principal residence, would these setbacks be required?
Yes, it is technically part of the
Okay.
principal residence because it is attached to the open porch, which is also attached to the home.
Got it, okay.
Is it a pergola with essentially for landscape and there's no roof on it?
It's a slotted pergola made of aluminum.
Ms. Pastor?
Would you be willing to accept a condition that it never be enclosed?
100%.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, seeing none. You have 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed.
None.
Okay. Well, then let's go ahead and open it up to the board for motion or discussion.
Anybody? No? I'll just do them all.
I'll do this one.
Okay.
It will go faster if you do them all, but I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-54 for property located at 202 North Manhattan Avenue. I'm sorry. Thank you. I move that the variance request for case VRB case 21-54 located at 202 North Manhattan Avenue, unit number 2, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduced rear yard setback from 15 feet to 7 feet 7 inches, a reduced side north yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet 11 inches, a reduction in the side south yard setback from 7 feet to 4 feet 7 inches, with an encroachment for the eaves and gutters with the following conditions: that the pergola never be enclosed. That said variance, as conditioned, be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the City Code, specifically that the attached house, that the narrow lot and the deep depth of the residence does not allow for additional space in the backyard.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Hurtak, second by Mr. Farrell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1. Okay. Your motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Anastasia Barnes, the next case before you is VRB 2172. The applicant is Jennifer Ronneberger, and the agent is Patience Schaefer and Jennifer Ronneberger. The address is 2792 East Fowler Avenue. The current zoning is CG. The request is to allow 2 additional building signs for a single occupancy parcel having street frontage, and to increase allowable building sign surface area, 53.32 square feet to 110.7 square feet, both in accordance with 27289.3. Oh, there was a prior special use that was approved in 2020 for a drive-in bank. This is an aerial of the subject property and the surrounding zoning, largely commercial in nature. This is a current street view construction. This was the site plan provided by the applicant along with elevations of the proposed signage. Section 2780, application of the variance power, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
All right, thank you so much. Applicant, if you would please state your name, your address, and confirm you've been sworn.
Sure. My name is Jennifer Ronneberger. My address is 51 Meadows Drive, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33436. And yes, I have been sworn in. Thank you. Oh, okay. I know I don't speak loud enough. Okay, we are asking for 2 additional wall signs for a Chase Bank that is here now. Actually, the building is built, so it's not just that construction site that's there anymore. So what I'd like to do, if possible, so you guys understand, because I know it sounds like we're asking for a lot of additional signage, but what's allowed by code is 53 square feet, and we're asking for 57. So the addition is for 2 additional wall signs that does match the one that we're going to be proposing on the front elevation, which is the south. So if it's possible, I'd like to go through each page. So the first one is the site plan, so can we flip to the next one, please? Oh, do you want me to do it? I don't know. Oh, okay, yeah, just like that.
Okay, sure. Do you have your own little
I do.
packet? Okay, great.
I have my own.
We'll do that on the Elma, so I don't know which slide you want to see next.
You put the document on there.
Oh, but I have all my notes on it. I just want them to see what I get, what you just showed is what I would just like to see.
Okay, sure. I just don't know. Okay.
Yeah, if just go to the next slide. I can tell you, this is fine. This is the south elevation. This is the elevation that faces East Fowler. That's the one that is allowed by straight code. Each of the signs that we're asking for tonight is going to be 36.9 square feet. So this is regular, standard Chase, low profile, individual illuminated channel letters. So if you could just go to the next slide for me. Okay, this is the west elevation. This west elevation, the way that the building is oriented because of the shape of the property, this west elevation faces the drive aisle into the shopping center. The shopping center is the University Collection Shopping Center. So this is the front of the building where this is the only entrance, and it faces that direction. That's why we're asking for a sign to match the front to be on this elevation. Straight up notification that you know that you're going into the bank, okay? So we can go to the next slide, please. The next slide, this is the east elevation. We're looking to have a sign on this side as well. The reason for this sign, there's a couple of different reasons here. This sign is imperative. This is also where the, give me 1 second here. There's going to be drive-through lanes for the drive-through bank. So that's what's going to be here also. The other part of it, there is an existing multi-tenant shopping center sign that is right next to this location. There's the Chili's building. Are you guys familiar with the area at all, by chance? No? Okay. There is the Chili's building, which is right next door, right in between the Chili's building and this new Chase Bank. There is a very large multi-tenant freestanding sign that's there. So as you're coming westbound on Fowler, you're not able to really see this building, so you're not going to be able to see the sign on the front. So you're going to need notification that the bank is there, so that's why we're asking for a sign on that side as well. So that's pretty much it. That's what we're asking for. Again, we're looking for uniformity. The way that Chase does their buildings, they're really looking for brand consistency. We don't want to have different size signs all over the place. We're really looking for a nice, clean, slick look. I just went past this building. It's absolutely gorgeous. The materials are high-end, and it's very, very nice. So we're hoping that you would please allow us to have the 2 additional signs that we're asking for. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
All right, I guess that concludes your presentation.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Seeing none, I'll open it up for board questions.
Could you run us through the math, the 57 square feet? I'm not sure how you got there.
Sure. The building frontage, code is 1.25 square feet for every linear foot of building frontage. Our building frontage is 42 feet in length, so 1.25 comes out to the 53. So we're asking for the two additional. So I'm actually asking for an additional 57, so 36.9 times 3 is the 110, but really you take that 57 off, the 53 off, you come out to 57.
Okay, so you're asking for an additional 57 above what you're allowed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ms. Decker?
Do other buildings in the area have signage on the, I guess, east and west
They do.
sides of the
They
building?
do. There's, right in that shopping center alone, there's, right in that shopping center alone, there's multiple tenants that have 2 signs.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you bring any pictures of the shopping center, your building, surrounding buildings?
I did
View
not.
angles, anything?
I did not. I didn't know I needed to, I'm sorry.
Do you have a question? Questions for the applicant?
Okay.
Anyone else? Nope. All right. You have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you need it.
Sure. There's one thing I would like to add. Also, this location, because it is a single occupant out parcel, they are allowed to have an additional freestanding sign as well. We're looking to not pursue the freestanding sign, which the freestanding sign is 100 square feet allowable, 50 square feet per side. So we're looking to forego that option if we're able to have the additional wall signage, because to us that's much more important and much more imperative. So ideally, if you want to go back to the math again, ideally we're allowed to have 153 square feet total. So we're actually asking for the 110, so I'd be giving up 40 that I could have. So we'd like to know if that's okay, we would be open to that option.
Would you accept that as a condition?
Yes.
Are we able to offer that as a condition?
Kamaria Pettis-Malco from the City Attorney's Office. I think what you're asking is if they would change the design of their project, so that information, I mean, if you were asking for them to change the size of the project.
The
Or just
condition would be
reduce
that.
what the setback
No,
requirement
the
It would
is.
just
condition
be-
would be that you
It
don't
would-
build a monument sign.
Yeah, they're willing to give up the monument sign, which would have given them 150 square feet of signage. So in essence, their total square footage is less than what they might ordinarily have gotten, less
Correct.
without coming in front of the board.
Yes.
Yeah, but the question is, can we make a condition that they cannot build the monument sign?
If the applicant is stating on the record that they would accept that condition, if it's a part of the motion, then you could proceed that way, and if the applicant acknowledges it.
All right, good.
Okay. So does that conclude your rebuttal time?
That is it, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or discussion.
I just wanted to having the signs on all sides makes sense, especially if there's not the, freestanding sign. I was just trying to figure out, why the size needed to be so big. I didn't quite understand that hardship so much as, having the number of signs required. Just wanted to bring that up.
Did you want to go ahead and make a motion?
Before she makes a motion, I would like to make a statement.
Sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I am inclined to approve this variance, but I am not inclined to offer an approval with conditions. I don't see a need to require that this applicant waive the right to install a monument sign in the future. So I know that was discussed and offered up, but my understanding is that this kind of thing runs with the land, and so I just don't see a need to give it up right now.
Kamaria Pettis-Malco from the City Attorney's Office. Yes, a variance does run with the land, so please keep that in mind. And if someone would like to, I don't know, Ms. Johnson, are you comfortable making a motion on this one, or do you want to save another one? That's,
I'll make it.
All right. Do we have someone who would like to make a motion?
But, and then,
More comments?
I do have one more
Okay,
comment.
more
because
discussion.
I actually feel the opposite, that I would not be willing to approve it without the condition of the monument sign, just because I feel like it is too much sign, but if they're willing to take away that monument, I understand the need to have 3 signs, I just don't understand the need for twice as much square footage. This goes back to the size, so I'm willing to give them the size if they give up the monument.
My thinking was just that, East Fowler is a really busy road. There are lots of multi-tenant, kind of out parcels and strip centers. And so as far as directional and wayfinding signage, I think that on Fowler, for better or worse, that a lot of signage is necessary. So with that, I will make a motion.
Just remember that the condition goes with the land, so does the variance. So without a condition, you're allowing 3 signs and a monument for future tenants.
Well, but the variance is based on this site plan. Is that
Yeah, but
is
you
that
can
accurate?
occupy the same building as it exists today.
If they change the signage, if it's a Chase Bank, and the new tenant comes in and it's a Chase Bank, they can utilize the same signage. But if they take those signs down and they go to put up new signs, that's a different site plan, is it not?
it's the same building, it's the same site plan. Oh, I'm sorry. Kamaria Pettismackle from the City Attorney's Office. It's the same building. If the new owner were to come in with a new project to say that they want to change the Chase Bank's, what they built, and they want to start from scratch, then that's going to be a new site plan, and the approval will be site plan specific. But if another, say, Bank of America came and took, Bank of America came and took that Chase Bank with the same property, it's still the same site plan.
Yeah,
Nothing
but-
has changed about the site plan.
But their signs would say something, their signs would be different.
But it will still be the same outline.
I completely understand that. I'm just wondering, I've seen this, I've seen it before, but, so your point is, well, if it's a different bank, we wouldn't allow
The
that.
square footage is what matters.
It's
not
the
what-
I understand.
Not what the words say.
It's the site
No, I
plan
completely
specific.
understand that. I wasn't sure if, because they're changing the signage, we've had instances where they take the signs down that, they want to change out their sign and put in a new light box or something like that, and we need to go in and approve it because they're putting in a new light box, or they're taking the signs.
Right, but that's when it's a non-conforming sign with no approved variance.
Okay.
That's when we get those old signs from the 50s that are enormous.
From a comment standpoint, I would agree with Ms. Decker on this one, that, I don't know that I would necessitate the condition, because I don't really care. I agree, it's the same exact condition for a Bank of America or a Chick-fil-A that's occupying this space. So if they need the same signage, I would be okay with that.
But if it were Chick-fil-A, it would be a change of use, and then that process.
No, that's totally, that's what
Not
we were
if they
just.
occupied the same
I agree
building.
with you, but that's not what they just said.
I think the argument, though, is that, yes, it's a busy street, but adding 4 signs, if they were to have a monument, just makes the next person have to add 5 signs. There's a reasoning for the city's code.
But what is being asked here is that the city code doesn't allow for signage doesn't account for the fact that buildings for safety and directional purposes should have signs on the east and the west side. The code is based on the width of the building frontage on one road.
And if this building were simply turned the other way,
They would
they
get a
would
lot
get
more
more
signage.
they would just by right have a lot more signage.
Correct.
square footage.
Right.
Sure, but then, I mean, if that's the case, I wouldn't allow the sign on the side with the drive-in, and then they would just have the monument, so, anyway.
All right, well, I guess we can hash it out in the motion and see where it goes. So who would like to make a motion this evening?
I would like to make a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-72 for property located at 2792 East Fowler Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for an increase in the allowable building sign surface area from 53.32 square feet to 110.7 square feet based on the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the variance will not substantially interfere with or injure the health, safety, or welfare of those that would be affected by the variance because the property is located in a commercial area with lots of other signage, and in fact the signage on the east and the west elevations will result in additional safety measures being taken because public traveling east and west on Fowler will be able to more easily find and locate the building.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. All right, motion is second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Did you want to vote?
Yeah, I do want to vote. I just couldn't decide that quickly.
Okay, let's try it again from the top. All those in favor, say aye. 1, 2, 3. Ms. Decker, you made the motion? Yeah, okay. All right. 4. All those opposed? All right, we got it? 4 to 2. Motion passes. 4 to 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
All right.
Anastasia Barnes. The next case before you is 2173. The applicant and agent is Michael Cogdill. The property owner is Dana and Eric Grumman. The address is 108 Huron Avenue. The current zoning is RS60, and the request is to remove a grand tree to construct a single-family dwelling. This is the subject property with surrounding zoning, as you can see, residential in nature. This is a view of the property from the street. These are several options that the applicant provided. This is option 1, which is the option, it's my understanding that they wanted to move forward with. Option 2, option 3, and another picture of the subject property. And the standard for variance review for tree removal, section 27284.2.5. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
All right, applicants, please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn.
Hi, I'm Eric Grumman. My address is 679 Geneva Place, Tampa, Florida 33606. We've both been sworn. This is Mike Cogdill. He's a builder. My wife and I have owned the property for about 32 years. This tree, it's not on the property line. It's about 6 or 8 feet into the property. And it's hard to see on the photos, but the entire canopy leans over about half of the property. And it seems impractical or really impossible to build a 2-story home on this property with the way the tree is situated. You'd have to remove really almost the entire canopy to put a home here to comply with the existing height requirements under the flood rules and the setbacks. I'm not asking for any variances of the setbacks. I want to have a a backyard with at least a 20-foot setback. So I don't want to, push the house back to the corner. It's impractical, and it doesn't allow us to put a normal-sized house there. I think from a practical standpoint, the tree needs to be removed in order for us to put a single-family home that will comply with all the existing setbacks, because I don't want any variances of the setbacks. I like the setbacks. And I'm also, I've heard that the city sometimes will require replanting, which I'm willing to do that, and I actually want to do that. But this tree just is, there's just no way around building with this tree. It's been a problem as long as I've owned the property because of its low hanging canopy, and has created a problem there. That house is one of the original houses in that neighborhood. I think it was built in about the 50s. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, another issue too, even if we recreated this same house, you can see in the picture that we're all looking at how the low-hanging canopy is going to be encroached in it even with a single-story house, because now we have the FEMA floodplain elevation that's been increased recently. You're going to be around 7 feet for the first floor elevation, plus whatever you do for second or first story plus roof. You're going to be right into the canopy anyway. So there's a major issue with even recreating the same house we have there now. And the arborist report that Dave Riley prepared, he even mentions the low-hanging canopy and shows some measurements. But you can see from the photo we're looking at, it's very close to it.
Okay, did you have any more you wanted to present?
We basically included everything, the different options. Now, we did not show a pool in the backyard, so we didn't think that was relative or relevant to the tree issue. But that a pool in the future is something that the owner wants to pursue.
Okay. All right, does that conclude your presentation?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Seeing none, I will open the, did you have something else?
I'm sorry, yeah, we also had a letter of support from one of the neighbors. I don't know that you properly saw it uploaded to Acela.
That's one that, that's not the one that we received. Is that in
I think
Acela?
there's one erroneously loaded in there from somebody else, and then we had one that was uploaded from April Newman and Joshua Muha, or Jason Muha.
I do not see that in the application.
I can give it to you if you
If you have a copy of it, you can give it to,
just put it on. Okay, gotcha. Oh, I got you. Okay, here we go.
there you go. Slide it down a little bit if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Okay.
And staff from Natural Resources is present in case there are any questions.
Okay. Okay. You sure can.
I'd like to ask a question maybe to you and/or Natural Resources. It looks like there are 3 other trees, a palm, 2 other oaks that are also removed. Have they been approved for removal by Natural Resources already?
I am unsure. This is Anastasia Barnes. Stephen Eister from Natural Resources, he can hopefully answer that question.
Hello, Stephen Eiser with Natural Resources. There's a large laurel oak in the back of the property, which I believe a tree removal permit was already granted for. That tree is still there. The other trees in the front of the property, they're much smaller. They're not as good as condition. My evaluation should be in your paperwork. And then you have the one on the grain tree on the far side, which is the main concern.
Thank you.
When did you guys buy this property? Or you?
1990.
Okay.
We lived there for about 5 or 6 years, but we've owned it ever since.
Are you guys planning to occupy this house yourselves?
Yes. It's not a spec home or anything like that.
Have you considered the natural resources response here that for the option number 3, they believe that you could still keep the grand tree viable?
I don't think that's possible given the height of the house, because I think the canopy, too much of the canopy would have to be removed. And that wouldn't even be healthy for the tree. So I don't think that's practical.
Let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Eister now.
So Stephen Eister again. So this tree has been impacted by the house that's already there. It's got a decently narrow canopy on it. It goes more this way across the property, not as far deep. And as a caveat on that option 3, we asked for a 40% reduction in the rear yard setback. We didn't have an idea about the pool then. We haven't seen those plans, but that was the full recommendation.
Anastasia Barnes, the code does allow, in Table 4.2 in Section 156, footnote 7 allows, which is shown in your staff report, allows for certain reductions for preserving specimen or grand trees. A 40% reduction would allow the rear yard setback to be 12 feet by right. So, for preserving that tree.
And again, Mr. Eister, I'm sorry, I've given you your exercise this evening. And if option 3 would still be a 2-story house, you believe that the impact to the canopy spread to the limbs would be acceptable?
Yeah, because with option 3, it shows the tree about 4 or 5 feet, I believe, away right now. And then with the reduction, you would pick up another 8 feet. So that gives you about 12 to 13. The standard is 20 feet, but with the circumstance of the 2-story house and everything, so you'll impact that small back corner of the tree instead of the whole side of the canopy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just add that a 12-foot backyard is really small. And in terms of the ability to eventually put a pool there, or even put a pool there at the time of building, I don't see that as being practical at all. It makes the house too small. I mean, it makes the backyard too small for any really functional use. This tree is, the way that this tree sits, I've had to deal with this tree for 30 years. It is not an attribute to this property or the neighborhood. I would like to replant other trees on the property, and I think that would accomplish the same goal and the same species on the property. I don't know if the board considers something like that, but I think that makes the project impractical with such a small backyard.
Yeah, plus we can also keep these 2 trees that we originally had talked about.
There's trees in the front that we can retain.
Yeah, we originally showed taking the 2 smaller trees out in the front yard. We can keep the garage on the north side, get rid of the grand tree we're talking about, and then keep the 2 smaller oaks in the front yard.
So you originally said that encroaching on the rear yard was not ideal because you might want to add a pool. And then you just said that you didn't think that even adding a pool now at time of construction is practical. So would you like to clarify?
No,
because those are directly conflicting
I'm sorry, that
comments.
was with that option where they would reduce the backyard to 12 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, you said, or if we built it now, it would not be practical. 12 feet or if we built it now. So
No,
are you
that's-
saying that is not the case?
That's not what I meant. I meant that if, my intention is to build a pool in the back, and I don't know how that's possible with a 12-foot backyard. It just doesn't, I don't think I could ever do that. He would know better than me, but it just doesn't seem practical.
Yeah, there's no green space left when you do that. Plus with the additional front driveway, you're decreasing that ratio of the pervious and impervious area. So now you're creating a bigger problem.
And there's plenty of houses where their entire backyard is a pool. So I mean, to say that it's not practical, it is. The use would be a pool. It wouldn't be a yard, and in return, you would get a much larger front yard. So I'm not saying you need to do that. I'm just saying that to say that it's not practical, it absolutely is. We've seen it done. I've seen it done. And you pick up that footage on the front side. Of course, that is your choice in your case to make. I just wanted to point that out.
When the whole pool issue came up and sliding the house back, we didn't think about encroaching on the back property setback. We thought about staying within the setback requirements. So I created another drawing after I found out about this issue with the pool, and I can show you this real quick.
Okay.
Basically, if we...
Can you zoom that out, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you zoom it out?
Oh, okay.
Other way?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Get a little pointer or something. Basically, if we get rid of the tree, leave the garage on the north side, minimize the front driveway, we can keep these two trees we originally talked about getting rid of. Now we have plenty of backyard. We have a nice space for green space back here, green space for trees, what have you, and we're not encroaching on any of the property setbacks.
Maria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Was this submitted to staff before today?
No, because the whole thing with the encroaching on the setback didn't come up till late last week.
It's just a concept.
Yeah, and you'll need to, if you want us to consider or rely upon this, you'll need to obviously include that document and give it into city staff.
Okay, I've got a couple of copies I can hand over right now.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right, any other questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal, should you choose, or should you need it? What? Did you have any rebuttal, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just want to reiterate the point that we're talking about a two-story house. However, if we did do a one-story house, you still have an extreme height on the first-story roof because the 7-foot floor elevation above grade plus the first story plus the roof. So this isn't just replacing like kind. If we went to even replace the same house, it's going to be a lot taller, and it is going to be encroaching the canopy. If you built the same house per code today, it's going to encroach upon that tree.
Okay. Does that conclude your rebuttal?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I will now close the public hearing and open it up for motion and/or board discussion. Mr. Farrell?
And honestly, I think these guys have proved, I think they've proved their case. I think it's impractical to shift to, with the way Davis Island is right now, to shove a house back to a 12-foot rear backyard, considering the kind of size and the value that that house is going to be worth when it's done, limits the homeowner, conditions the homeowner to the future value of that house because that backyard is so impractical. And simply by having a larger front yard, I don't know anybody in this town that utilizes their front yard for anything other than decorative landscape and parking the cars. So I think they certainly adequately tried to move around. I know I've been a short timer on this committee, but I know that we have certainly approved removal of grand trees
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City
Yes.
Attorney's Office. Every case is.
Yes, ma'am, it's singular and
Yes.
individual. Okay, so I'll recant that. But, yes, I think they've proven their case and they certainly made alternatives. And I think the builder is bringing a very good point that I don't think people realize to the extent that the shape that housing is going to take now that the new FEMA regulations are gonna take effect. And you're gonna have a house who's next to that oak tree, you're gonna be standing on the ground floor. Those limbs aren't gonna be above you, they're gonna be at your eye level or lower. It's just not a practical, and then to knife that tree like that and cut it like a slice when naturally those trees grow in circumference regions, you're just setting them up for a problem where there's gonna be a storm, and they have that legally available to them too. And there's legislative action which allows them to take that tree, as I understand it, with simply an arborist report. Again. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
You trying to lobby us, David, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll recant that one, but I'm sorry.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Excuse me. Yes, sir, I would. All right. Move that the variance request for case VRB, the right one, 2173 for property located at 108 Huron Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a removal of a grand tree with an encroachment for eaves and gutters based on the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the
Okay, Mr. Farrell, make sure you're using the tree approval language.
27, excuse me, set forth in section 27-284 of the city code, specifically that the applicant has given adequate weight to trying and relocate a new construction home to avoid having to deal with this tree. And I think he showed adequate hardship that they've made every effort to try and relocate the house to accommodate the positioning of the new house, and I just don't think it's impractical. I think it's impractical.
I'll second with, if I can make an amendment to the motion, just to flag the fact that we heard testimony that a reduction in the rear yard setback would result in the house being, I think, 13 to 15 feet away from the tree, but we have an arborist report that indicates that the 2-story house would need to be 20 feet away from the tree in order to preserve that tree.
I accept that.
Okay, so I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second as amended. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes 4-2.
Thank you.
Anastasia Barnes, the next case before you is VRB 2174. The applicant, agent, and property owner are Emily Shine and Benjamin Michael David. The property address is 3606 West Rinelli Street, Circle, apologize. The current zoning is RS 60, residential single family, and the request is to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet to 17 feet in accordance with section 27-156 to enclose an existing open porch to utilize as an addition to a single family residence. There was a prior design exception that was approved in 2014 to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet to 17 feet for an open front porch. This is the subject property and surrounding zoning, largely residential and commercial in nature. This is a street view of the home in question. And this is the site plan that was submitted showing the current setback and area to be enclosed. Again, section 2780, application of the variance power, and staff is available for any questions you might have.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn.
My name is Benjamin David. I live at 3606 Western Ellie Circle, Tampa, Florida 33629. I have been sworn in. I am the property owner along with my wife. We are requesting the enclosure of our front porch. We purchased this house in 2016. It was new construction at the time. We did not design it. But I have an image here. I'm not sure if I need to submit this or I can put it on. Yeah. Okay. So this gives you a good idea of the porch. Our front porch forms sort of an L shape. There's a front door and then this back piece here that kind of goes back into the house. So what we're requesting is just on this back portion, we close in. We're not requesting any change in the foundation or the roof line. We are making this request as a practical matter for my wife and I. Due to the pandemic, we both started working from home. We are expecting our family to grow next year, which is exciting. On the flip side of that, my mother-in-law, who lives in Central Florida, became a widow recently. She's becoming, it's becoming difficult for her to remain by herself, so we're expecting to bring her in the house as well. Under our current setup, we're using bedrooms for offices, but our intent is to convert this back part of the patio into an office space for us to make room for the additions to the family. As I mentioned, there'll be no changes to the foundation or roof line of the house. We just want to close in that back half of the patio as office space, 2 walls and 2 windows. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes your presentation?
Yes.
All right, let's ask if there are any audience members, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this application. Anyone? No? Okay. Let's open it up for board questions.
I have a question that's probably semantical, but I'm looking at a site plan here, and it actually shows 3 walls, not 2 walls, because it wants to bump out a little bit. Is that
Yes.
still the case, or are you planning on making it?
No, it would bump out. I believe it's about 1.5 feet. With the addition of the door and making it an office space, we wanted a little more room, for a desk and a chair and a door, so it wouldn't all jam into itself. So it would come out. Okay. 2 and a quarter wall, I guess.
Okay, but question for staff, I'm assuming that's still within the setbacks and.
Correct.
I mean, it
Yeah,
wouldn't
so
make
the
a difference
column-
that way. Okay, just double checking,
Yeah.
thank you.
Did you have a question as well?
Yeah, mine was similar. Do you have that floor plan available?
Yes. So this is the front of the house.
Okay.
So you can see this is the front entryway, and then we'll keep that front porch linear across the front, and then the bump out for the office would be right there.
So, Ms. Barnes, is this really a reduction from 25 to 17, or is it less than that because he's not going out to the front of the porch line?
It was my understanding that he was going out to the porch line.
Okay.
Well, to that column that currently exists.
Okay, so that's what he's noticed for, and I guess he could go up to that far, but he's asking for less than that here. I'm not sure, Ms. Pettis, if we need to address that or not. He's not asking for 17 feet, he's asking for less.
You're only
On the site plan.
You're only kicking it forward another 1.5 feet from the front yard, from the front entry
Front door,
step, from
yes.
the front door.
Yes. And I believe there is a variance on the porch now anyways. I'm not sure.
It's not a variance, it's a
Design
design
exception.
exception.
Okay.
So that's
And-
for a porch.
Yeah, so, since this is a site plan specific approval, if you could just, whatever motion is made, if it could address what's asked for on the site plan.
Okay. It looks like it's more than 1.5 feet, David. I mean, the door is 3 feet, so it looks like it's about a 3-foot extension. I guess that's not really critical to us if we tie it to the site plan. I'm just pointing out, you can see that door's 3 feet there.
You're right, I'm sorry, I was mistaken one line there.
Well, are we going to approve up to 17, or are we going to approve, I mean, are we?
It looks like the dimension string says 4 feet, actually, 4-foot projection.
Yeah.
So that means if you're at 25 feet, he's asking to be at 21 feet,
Right.
approximately.
Right.
It looks like there's a couple of numbers after that 4. I would hate to,
Yeah, so there's some
so
like
maybe like give him 5.
half an inch or something.
Yeah.
But either way, just wanted to clarify that.
Maria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Are we still in the questioning phases to the applicant?
Yes.
So if you could just clarify, what is your ask? What is your variance request?
Our variance request, as stated, was reduced from 25 feet to 17 feet to enclose the porch. However, I do need to say that the plans were never submitted to the column line, and we took our direction from the city to request that 17-foot setback.
I did,
Can you put your name on the record? No.
Anastasia Barnes. So in email correspondence, I did confirm the 17 feet because originally it was less, and it was my understanding that these were just preliminary plans, that they weren't final plans. So that's where the 17 feet came from, along with the site plan up to the column as shown, not the floor plan.
The reason
So it is less.
Yeah.
The reason that's important to us is what you've noticed for is that you can build all the way out to the front of your porch, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very different appearance for us, the columns versus wall. And so we would need to know what you actually intend to do and probably build the motion around that.
Sure.
Because it's very different, the two outcomes.
Sure, understood. So our request would not be to the porch. I guess it would be to 21 feet.
21 feet,
Yeah,
Or 20 to be safe.
20.
20 to be safe, sure.
Okay. Are there any further questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, you have 3 minutes for.
Actually, I don't know, did you put on your hardship criteria?
Yes, we are, should I restate everything?
He went over it,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you have 3 minutes for rebuttal to say anything else you feel is necessary.
No, thank you, I'll yield that back.
Okay. Well, with that, I will open it up. I will close the public hearing and open it up for motion or board discussion if necessary.
I'll make a motion. I move that variance request for case VRB 2074 located at 3606. 2174, located at 3606 West Ranelli Circle, be granted as depicted on the site plan and presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the front yard from 25 feet to 20 feet with encroachment of eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in 2780 of the city code, specifically that there's a practical need to expand. They had a design exception for the porch and would like to build out onto part of that porch without affecting the front facade of the house per the site plan that was submitted.
Second.
All right. We have a motion, a second by Mr. Farrell. Let's take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. We have all those opposed. Okay. Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Anastasia Barnes, the next case before you is VRB 2177. The applicant is Dan Drayton, the agent Thomas Hall, and the property owners Monica and John Weir. The property address is 4213 North Riverview Avenue. The current zoning is RS50, residential single family, and the request is to remove a grand oak tree to construct a single family dwelling. This is the subject property with surrounding zoning, as you can see, residential in nature. This is the survey submitted by the applicant. Here is a current street view of the vacant property. And again, section 27284.2.5 is what the standard for the Variance Review Board. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barnes.
I was trying to see if another case could be sent up to get sworn in, but
we need to swear some folks in.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll just get the next
All right,
case.
let's hold on for just a moment, and we'll go ahead and swear these applicants in.
Surge.
Quite a few folks. Anybody else? What's that?
Just go ahead.
Okay, fire away.
Please stand. You are going to be speaking this evening. Please stand so you can be sworn in.
If you're going to be speaking, can you please stand to get sworn in? If you're going to make a comment or anything, thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give this evening is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, welcome.
Welcome.
Now you can state your name, your address, and confirm that you've just been sworn.
Yes, my name is Thomas Hall. My address is 14034 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33613. I'm acting as the agent, and also have Mr. Dan Drayton here, who's actually the builder, and the homeowners in the back, the Weirs.
Okay, you have 10 minutes to present your case.
Very simply, this is a grand oak tree removal. The tree is located in the center of the property. I'm a ISA certified arborist, FL 6267A. We had a meeting there, me and Mr. Drayton had a meeting there with Owen Williamson, and during that time, we looked at 5-6 different ways to try to save the tree. We looked at moving the home, turning the home, moving it forwards, moving it backwards. We also looked at having a setback to get the home within 2 to 3 feet of the tree, but in doing that, we would have to take over half the canopy, the tree canopy. Once we realized we couldn't do that without affecting the tree, or even if we did build it and even put in a piers where you could build from pier to pier to try to build over the top of the roof plate, we realized even doing that within 2 years it would kill the tree. So when it was all said and done, we had no practical way to save the tree and still build a home. And that's pretty simple.
All right. Does that conclude your presentation?
The only thing I might add is it is a very narrow width lot. It's only 50 foot wide. We have 7-foot setbacks on either side. We attempted to try to move the house over 2 feet, bring it over to a 5-foot setback. By doing so, it really does not, if you look at the presentations that were presented, it really doesn't get us away from the root system of the tree nor the canopy. We have very, very little. We are at max at our front setback at 30 feet. I have a few feet to move in the rear, but very, very little. And it really doesn't affect the canopy of the tree. Can you see? Oh, okay. If you can see the canopy radius that I drawn on the site plan from the center of the tree, moving the home around on this 50-foot wide lot makes it really impossible to try to get away from it.
And because they don't want you to build within, you know, even with the variances of 13 feet off the tree, you just have no room on the other side, because then your house would be into the neighbor's yard. So there was just nothing we could do.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? All right, seeing none. We've had very little audience participation this evening. Let's open it up for board questions.
I just had one quick question. You can't go closer to the water because of the wetland setback, correct?
That is correct.
Is that?
That is correct.
Is that a 30 feet, 30-foot setback?
35 feet.
35 feet, okay, thank you.
So it appears you've met all the setbacks with your lot layout of your residence. Is this a two-story residence or single?
It is an elevated two-story because it's in floodplain on the Hillsborough River, and we are elevating it to make garage space underneath, usable space.
How far is that elevation?
We are elevating the house to 13 feet, the base of the foundation floor plan. Required to be 10. I think they just changed it with FEMA to 11 in that
Just
area.
did, yeah.
We're raising it 2 foot higher for the homeowners, so when FEMA changes it 2 years down the road, we're still up above.
Still insured.
Any other questions from the board? No? All right, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you need it.
No, nothing. Like I said, we met with the city arborist, Owen Williamson. We really tried to figure out a way to save the tree, and it's just impractical.
Indeed. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for motion or discussion from the board, please.
I'll make a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-77 for property located at 4213 North Riverview Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 sub F sub 4 of the city code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed that the proposed buildings cannot be reasonably reconfigured in order to save the tree due to the fact that the lot is very narrow and there is at least a 13-foot buffer needed to save this tree.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion, seconded by Mr. Farrell. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. All right, any opposed? No? All right, your motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. All right, we have reached 27-80, and I will recuse myself for this application. You're welcome to use that.
Anyone who's going to be speaking this evening, will you please stand so that you may be sworn in? raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give this evening is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may have a seat.
Okay, so this is case VRB 21-80. Are the petitioners present? Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, can we do staff report, please?
Yes, so Anastasia Barnes with Development Coordination. VRB 2180 is for 1203 West Charter Street. The applicant is Eric Pinico, and the property owner is Pain Free Development LLC. The current zoning is RS60 residential single family. The request is to remove a grand oak tree to construct a single family dwelling. There was a prior formal decision that was approved last year to subdivide the lot from 1201 West Charter. This is the subject tree in question. And this is the site plan showing the proposed floor plan as well as removal and existing trees to remain. And staff is available for any questions you might have.
Okay, if you would just say your name, your address, and if you've been sworn in, please.
Yes, Daryl McAteer, Phelps Dunbar LLP, 100 South Ashley Drive, Suite 2000, Tampa.
Have you been sworn in?
I have been sworn in.
And
yes.
are you gentlemen also going to be speaking?
Yes.
If you could just repeat
Yep,
the same.
I'm Logan Payne. I've been sworn in. I'm with Pain Free Development. I'm the owner of the property, and I reside at 13711 Springer Lane, Tampa, Florida, 33625.
Okay.
I'm Tolliver Payne, address 20314 Midcourt, Lutz, with HOP Construction.
And you've been sworn?
I have.
Okay, great. You all have 10 minutes to present your case.
All right, thank you. I did have a PowerPoint that I had uploaded into Acela. It was just an additional photographs. We don't have to dwell on it. I don't want to burn time on it if...
It's on the screen right now.
Okay, great. And how can I...
You're going to have to just tell, you're going to have to tell
There you go.
yeah, when to click to the next
Sure,
slide.
okay. Thank you so much. So I just will very briefly go through this. So we have an arborist report from Mr. Ricky Pederica, who actually measured the tree at 44 inches. The city's tree report is 49 inches, so I used that when I did this earlier PowerPoint a couple of weeks ago. So this is the tree in question from the street side, from the south side. And then next, please. The point is, I want to emphasize, this is a tree, a 60-inch DBH grand oak on the street side that we wish to keep. All right, so one of the main things we want to emphasize in this application is the grandest oak on the lot is going to stay. The idea of this is to put a house behind this tree, a two-story home, 4,000 square foot home behind this tree that will be complemented by the tree, and people can sit on the front porch and look at this 60-inch DBH tree, and this tree will be protected and will be there long after I'm probably gone. But you can move to the next one. This is an 18-inch oak in the back. It is behind the fence, but it is on the surveyed lot line, so I included it in the pictures. This is the westerly view of the tree we're requesting approval for removal of. It just shows the diameter, and it shows the kind of the crown and how large the tree is. It looks a little smaller from the street side than it is from the side. It really takes up a lot more space on the critical root zone. Again, looking from now the east side towards 1205 Charter Street, which is in the background. The tree in question, which they measured at 49 dBH, we have a 44 due to Mr. Pederica said there was a flare in the diameter of the tree, but at any rate, a grand tree is a grand tree. We're not worried about between 44 and 49 what it is. next. And this is from the north end of the lot. You can see how central this tree is to the lot. That's Charter Street. My vehicle happens to be on the right side of the photograph, but that's Charter Street. So it's not in the dead center, but it's encroaching on the dead center of the lot. And that's all I want to show from those. I'd like to switch to the Elmo. So this is Mr. Pederica's.
It's already on the, let me see, I think it's already on the.
No problem. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's see
Can the booth switch to the doc cam, please?
I'll go through these fairly quickly.
If you could just zoom that out a little bit.
Yeah, zoom it out.
Yep, up there, up.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mr. Pederica graded this tree good, failure potential low, a C7. He measured it. I think that staff had it at a B, so there's some deviation there. They had 49, we had 44, but it's a substantial grand oak. We recognize that, and we're not really disputing the health of the tree. It's the location that causes the problem, and this will become more apparent now. So, in this situation, you can see the canopy, the grand tree oak zone, and the critical root zone for the tree at question, and also the front tree, 60 dBH tree number 2 or 3, which we wish to save. But you can see how it dominates the central part of the lot, and there's a line, what Mr. Pederica referred to as a lion's tail, because of the years and years, decades of pruning it away from the neighbor's home. It's spread out to the west, and it's not in balance. And there is a wind event risk with this particular setup. So we have some example site plans to try to show you how we did try to reconfigure this home to this lot. We did make an effort, even with a tree so central to the lot. So obviously, there's a more standard elevation. Even trying to cheat to the setback, you're still well within the critical root zone. Of course, that's not going to work. That's a 4,000 square foot home. Pruning of the limbs would result in 40% of the canopy being lost. That's just not a workable solution. So we kept looking at it, kept moving. Move to the back, get away from the 60 dBH tree in the front, try to work with the yard and house as it is, but as you see, as we keep moving back, this tree is still so central to the lot that the critical root zone and the grand tree root zone, which goes out 20 feet, is still heavily impaired by any construction on this lot. So we kept going. We came forward, came towards the street. As you can see, once again, severe impediments to the critical root zone and canopy of the tree in issue, and now we are threatening the 60 dBH grand tree at the front of the lot that is actually an amenity and accessory to the lot that we want to save. So this footprint won't work. So we went to the extreme, which is really not what this process is meant, as I understand it, to save the tree if at all possible without creating an absurdity. But we created an absurdity anyway. We drew one up where, okay, we've got the tree out, we've got a hallway of a home up the inside the western setback of the lot using the 2760 design exception setback relief. And you have the grand tree up front. The grand tree root zone is threatened. The critical root zone is clear in the front. Nothing's clear in the middle because we can't find a plan that we can draw for a home that people would want in this neighborhood that will clear this house with this canopy, with the way the canopy's shaped, and also with where the roots are and where the tree is. Even with using structural piers and whatnot, you're still just gonna dehydrate a tree and eventually kill it, create an oddball, strange home with a dead tree that's gonna be craned out next to it in a couple of years. And that's really not helping anybody. It's not helping the tree ordinance. It's not helping the city. Our main goal is to protect that big 60 dBH tree up front and have it as an amenity to the city and an amenity to the home. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. In the staff reports, there's an arborist report from David Riley. Are you relying on, I heard you say Ricky Pederica. Was there an additional report that he provided for you? I just wanted you to be aware that they don't have that report. They only have an arborist report from David Riley.
So the report that, and I can turn a copy of everything that Mr. Pederica gave us in. I have a copy of it for the record, but it's also been uploaded into a cella. It's in a cella. So, but I'm happy to hand out as many copies. I have multiple copies of it here. I just didn't want to burn time.
So this is all Patrica, correct?
Everything that I have just showed you was already in the cellar.
I understand. I just wanted you to be aware that the board only, you have a report from who?
No, we do not have that report from
So
Ricky
that's
Pederica.
why I wanted that to just be known, but everything that you've provided, you're saying is from Ricky Pederica, who you're relying upon.
Yes.
Okay.
And if the board would like, I'd be happy to hand out paper copies. What happened is it didn't come together until the night before, yesterday. And so I was able to upload it to a cella, but I wasn't able to get with CCTV and upload it into the system, so we'd have a PowerPoint and everything. But it is in a cella.
You're fine. You just showed it
Yeah,
showed it to them, but I just wanted you to be aware that they did not have that report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And just make sure she gets a copy, that staff gets a copy so we can put it into record. So are you finished with your presentation for now?
For now, unless you
Okay,
have questions.
great. Well, before that, if there's anyone that wishes to speak on this, if you all could just step back and let the people that want to speak, that would be great. Come on up. If you would state your name,
Sure.
your address, and whether or not you've been sworn in.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Rick Fueo. I reside at 1202 West Coral Street, directly behind the property at question. I have been sworn.
Great.
As I believe at least two of the other speakers that are here, my wife and my neighbor have also been sworn.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Can you spell your, before you start the
Yes,
clock?
F
Can you
as in Frank.
Yes.
U-E-Y.
U-E-Y.
O as in Oscar.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our main focus of our presentation is the fact that the application for the variance has said that there will be no damage to any of the neighbors. None of them will suffer an adverse impact. In fact, the application was a little bit almost offensively simplistic in just saying that this would benefit the plan and that no one would be adversely affected. And we're going to place express reliance to show otherwise upon the city's own 2016 canopy report, which shows significantly, and I can place these on the document today, but I can read from them too. And it might be first better to give you a little bit of perspective so we go in order. So I'm just going to place these, I think, yeah, I do remember how to do this. That's the subject property. I wanted to give you some idea of the canopy that surrounds it at the time, and the existing character of the neighborhood is a significantly tree-lined neighborhood, which is why it's popular. I next want to show, and this would be viewed from the east of my property at 1202 West Coral Street. For purpose, over here would be the subject property, where I'm pointing to over here on the left. We have 5 mature grand oaks in our backyard. They are all codependent, as is all of these together, operating together. The grand oaks that go also to my neighbor's yard, Todd Henry, who has a written submission that he's also in opposition to. And I'm going to try to hurry through because I appreciate with 3 minutes I have a very limited portion of time. This is looking from the front at the properties. I do appreciate the clarification because I am familiar with the cella. I would have liked to have the opportunity to review items that were only recently uploaded. It was also not clear that they are only seeking removal of one tree if the board does grant this. I want to make sure that that's absolutely clear, because I will say also the way the property's been gone about, it seems like there has not been concern for the root structure of the existing trees on there, and that they may have already been damaged. But I just want to point to the fact that we will be adversely affected, and I am relying upon the City of Tampa's tree canopy and urban forest analysis. Okay, so that's what I am relying upon in terms of saying that there are adverse effects on the surrounding neighbors from the removal of a grand tree. First, in value, okay, and I'm reading now from page 79 of the report, which talks about values of surrounding properties.
30 seconds.
Okay. Energy conservation, also deterioration, lack of wind mitigation. This will make us far more vulnerable to windstorms. So the last thing with my remaining time, what I'd like to do is make sure and have these submitted into the record. I have 7 separate neighbor submissions here that they want to be also considered in opposition. That's Todd Henry, who's next door. That is, and I would like to place them all in the record as well.
Okay, can you put each of them on the Elmo?
Yes. I wanted to make sure I had sufficient
Just
time.
give us, pull it down a little bit.
Okay, yep.
And then we'll give a chance for each of us to read it, and then we can go to the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
And I can start, Todd Henry lives at 1204 West Coral.
Okay, thank you. Next one?
Okay, this is William Troutman. William Troutman's address is 1110 West Coral. He would be directly east of my property and catty corner of this property.
Okay, can you move it down a little bit so we can read the rest of it?
Sure. It's
Oh,
two
no,
pages.
other way, other way, sorry, up.
It's 2 pages altogether.
You could just handle these in.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want, that actually may be faster. Just hand them and we'll pass them around as the
Okay.
next speaker goes.
These are all, obviously I know I'm submitting a district copy. The next one's a 6-page from a writer that's in the neighborhood.
Okay,
All
okay.
right.
Just for clarification, so that the applicant knows who the letters of opposition are from, it's, the 6-page one is from Daniel Barshay, B-A-R-S-H-A-Y, and Susan Roghair, R-O-G-H-A-I-R. Then there's the Sergio Hair, S-U-E-R-O-G, Hair, H-A-I-R. Then there's Nancy Weiss and Beatrice Bowles, Corinne Stilbaugh, and I think you've already shown Brad Wilson Hissing.
I didn't think I showed Brad's, but I may have. I thought I only showed Todd and Pam Henry and Bill Troutman's, and then I got into the 6-page one.
Okay.
And
And then, those are all the letters, and then I'll just.
Yeah, and just for the record, their addresses are 709 West Woodlawn is Nancy Weiss and Beatrice Bowles. 1009 West Fribley is Corinne Stroball. 3608 North Ridge is Brad Hissing, and Daniel Barshay and Susan Roghair are 717 West Alfred. These are long-term residents of Riverside Heights.
Thank you again. Next. Same name, address, and if you've been sworn.
Hello, my name is Stephen Terry. I reside at 1108 West Charter Street, Tampa, Florida, 33602. And yes, I have been sworn in.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
All right. The Variance Review Board from your website uses 5 criteria to decide whether to approve a variance. Item 2 is
Not for trees. It's different for trees.
We have a different 7.
Okay.
And I believe we have a copy of that for people.
At any rate, one of the items was that this hardship can't be created by the applicant, where in fact the applicant created this hardship when he got the variance last fall to separate this property into 2 separate parcels, the empty yard and the one with a house on it. So it was created by the applicant. And this is a self-created hardship, so I don't see how it could be approved. One of the items that was mentioned earlier was that the city tree guy said that the roots were damaged for this tree. The roots probably are damaged for this tree as well as the 66-inch diameter grand tree because the developer has been driving heavy equipment over these roots without any protection to take down part of the existing house that exists on the adjacent property. They spent weeks driving over these tree roots, so obviously that has an impact. There were no protective barriers placed around the trees, nor anything put down to protect the roots. One of the things in looking at the proposed house to be built, I don't see how it's going to be possible to build that house without impacting the roots of the 66-inch tree in the front because of the 20-foot diameter barrier that's needed to be placed around that tree, 20 feet from the edge of the trunk. If you go back and look at the designated plans, that brings it right up to the edge of the porch. How are they going to get equipment into the backyard? That was never delineated. The other thing is there's another tree that was indicated on the design to
30 seconds.
To be removed. That is an over 12-inch diameter tree, which is a protected tree, and there was no mention of that whatsoever. Everyone in the neighborhood is watching this. We all have grand oaks, and we've all been denied at some point in time the ability to even trim our trees. One of our neighbors has a limb that was literally resting on the roof of his house, and the city would not let him trim that tree, take that limb off. So if you allow them to cut this tree down, it's going to have a lot of upset people in the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please state your name, your address, and if you've been sworn.
Hi there, I have been sworn. My name is Mary Ann Fuego, and my address is 1202 West Coral Street, and my home is directly behind the property in question. I'm going to rapidly go through my presentation. I'd like to just give you a perspective about how the citizens of RSH are feeling, Riverside Heights, and specifically the neighbors that surround this property. First off, I'd like to say that my house has been impacted by the taking down of a huge grand oak to the west, to the east, and to the north. If this one comes down, that'll be the fourth grand coming down to the south, okay? Everyone in RSH has experienced this, and everybody is upset. And when I say everybody, I'm going to just mention 14 people right now, the ones right around us. But it is a big problem for Riverside Heights because the lots are so large and the houses are so small. They're being split for redevelopment, which is fine, but that means that there's a higher percentage of trees coming out, and that means that a higher percentage of our canopy is being affected. So the negative impacts are impacting us. The hardships are on us, the neighbors, and I'm going to go through what those hardships are right now. That in talking with my neighbors in some of the letters that were submitted today, and Mr. Terry, who was just up here speaking, talking to his 4 neighbors that surround his house, which abut the property in question, we have 7 of the immediate neighbors and 6 of RSH neighbors to go by in sharing what I'm about to share with you. Everybody's upset because of the fact that the weather is changing and storms are growing stronger, the winds are growing stronger. These trees help with the wind. They protect our homes and they protect our roofs, believe it or not. The flooding, these trees hold the soil. Okay, they're like huge anchors in the neighborhood that we live in. And we are right along the river, and we are along a floodplain. This tree faces the river. It faces the house, and right in back of the house is the river. So it's directly across from the river. That tree would protect my property, the neighbor to the east and the west property as well. It would retain the soil in the event of a flooding event. And also in these microbursts that we're getting, where you see 4, 6, 8, 10 inches of rain dropping, these trees, all trees, but these trees, the big trees, that are disappearing rapidly from our neighborhood would help with that, would protect with that, would hold on to the soil. The temperatures, okay? Our neighborhood is getting so much hotter because of the lack of shade. The shade is going because the trees are coming down. Because of
30
the tree that
seconds.
was taken down, the grand tree that was taken down to the east of my house, now the morning sun comes directly onto my house. My home is much warmer. My cooling bills to cool the house have gone up, to heat the house have gone up. It has an impact on us. And all of the people that I'm talking about, referencing the 7 and the 6, they're experiencing the same thing, whether it's the tree next door, the tree in back of them, or the tree
Thank
across the
you.
street.
I appreciate it.
Is time up?
Yep, that is your
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this?
Oh, you still have the letters?
Yes, I still have the letters. I'm sorry. I haven't had a chance to quickly go through them. But board questions. Any questions from the board?
I have a few. Procedurally, for Ms. Barnes, the lot split would have been approved by city council, correct?
No. So the formal decision that was approved in 2020 was approved by the zoning administrator
Okay.
at that time.
All right. Not a variance.
Correct. You are correct.
I'd like to speak to our city arborist. Sorry, I don't know your name because you're new.
Steve.
To us, Stephen.
Iser.
So, Mr. Iser, I'm still learning the new tree code.
Yeah.
This tree's in the dead center of a lot.
It is.
How did the new code not manage this tree? Why is it here?
So if you look at the new code, they have the TRZ zone set up, and I think they had it highlighted on their map they showed. It's that red square.
Mm-hmm.
Because this tree, where it's located, and I think the size of the lot, it doesn't qualify under that process to be removed under a TRZ. So I believe that's why they're here today.
Okay, I didn't see their square, so, but they can show us that.
Yeah.
That was my only question
All
for
right.
you. Thank you. For the applicants, could you show us the site plan again, please?
Would you like me to bring up a hard copy? Or
No,
put it
just
there?
on the overhead.
Okay, here is, and it shows what would be our TRZ envelope if we qualified for that. So
Can you zoom out, please?
I will work on it. Nope.
Other way. Okay, so the TRZ envelope's the red rectangle, yes?
Yes, it is.
And this tree is inside the red rectangle, so I guess we haven't had our work group on the new tree code yet, so we don't know the details of it, but it seems like the tree's in the middle of that red envelope, so what am I missing?
If we had a bigger lot, we wouldn't be here.
I still don't understand. Mr. Iser, can you explain this to me, please?
Smaller lot, excuse me, I misspoke.
Wait, leave that.
Size-
We need that.
Yes, leave
size
that.
of
Thank
the
you.
lot.
So this tree's inside the rectangle, so what am I missing?
The square footage of the lot disqualifies it from using this process. It has to be like 50 by 100, I believe.
Got it.
Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but this lot's too big
I didn't
for
understand
that
that.
process.
Okay, so for the applicant, what are the dimensions of this lot?
This lot is 60 by 155, I believe.
Okay, so it's a little bigger than average, about 10 feet wider. Okay, and then my last question for Ms. Pettis-Mackle. The lot split is of no concern to the variance process, correct? We assess this piece of property as an individual piece of property.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And this lot is zoned for single-family residential per the lot split in 2020 from the zoning administration. Is that correct?
Yes. Anastasia Barnes, yes.
Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. You have 3 minutes to rebuttal.
Thank you. Just some quick points. There was a note about what we did or didn't upload to Acela. We did upload everything we've shown you to Acela prior to today. I check Acela every day when I do these applications or handle anything in front of a city board or group, and there were no letters there because they were brought in at the last minute. I have not been able to read them. I'm sure that both the property owner and my client would have been happy to meet with the neighbors and explain what they were going to do. I know one neighbor came across the street and spoke to the property owner and said, "Oh, you're tearing down that tree," and they didn't even understand which tree was coming down. So had we had that correspondence earlier, we could have had a dialogue, but we didn't. It was dropped in tonight for, I think, strategic reasons, but that's just my point of view. Also, I just want to point out, they said, oh, well, we're somehow, even though it's a different set of factors, that we're somehow coming to the situation. This neighborhood was platted in 1911. I'm just using this as for rebuttal, and you can certainly have it. But the lots in question are here at the corner of what Charter and what used to be Arlington. This has been intended for residential use since 1911, so 110 years. So the city created this plat long before any of us were born, and the fact that a tree grew on it doesn't invalidate the existence of the lot. And you know, I really don't have anything else other than one point to value. I don't see how, and I'm not an appraiser, I don't see how leaving the lot vacant instead of building a 4,000-foot high-quality home is going to, how those two alternatives, I think the 4,000-foot high-quality home within the region of these other homes with the preservation of the 60-inch DBH tree on Charter Street is going to raise their home values, not depreciate them. So with that, I conclude my rebuttal. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Thank you.
The letters were up.
Oh, yeah, they're, sorry. We were just passing them through.
I wanted to clarify one of your points there to the applicant. The comment you made about the plats, I wanted to clarify what you're saying is that the lot split, as we call it, was splitting it back to the original two plats.
That's correct.
So the lot that we're looking at was intended to be a lot, although not actually used in that manner until now. But that was the original size of that lot intention.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We're going to close the public hearing, and I am open to a motion or board discussion.
I'd just like to say for the concerned neighbors that we are looking at this property individually as an individual piece of property, and the split is not part of our jurisdiction, and that the tree criteria is different than a regular variance criteria, and there's more criteria for trees, and they actually allow us and expect us to consider the financial impacts of the decision, which is not part of a regular variance, but it is part of a tree case, which was one of the points they made. And this tree is in the exact center of the lot. I mean, I'm the only architect on the board, but it's very impractical to build a functional home with a tree covering canopy most of the center of the lot and expect to get your value out of it, which is part of the criteria for this type of variance. So I think it would be impractical to impose this tree upon anybody that intends to build a building on this property.
Just a couple other points of clarification. Mr. Pester is right that we cannot consider, that we consider the cost to use alternative methods, but one thing that we don't consider is the cost of removing the trees to other properties in the neighborhood. So we're based on the factors that we have to consider, we can't consider the fact that that removing trees may or may not increase or decrease the neighbor's property value. The other thing I just wanted to point out was there was some issues raised about the root damage to with heavy equipment going over the property, again, that's not something that we consider, but I understand that there are probably other avenues for those concerns to be raised. So with that, I'll make a motion unless there's any other comments.
I just wanted to make a quick comment to the neighbors that this is a difficult situation with a platted property for development with a tree in the center. But I did appreciate the efforts of them saving at least the tree in the front of the property and in the back. There also, with tree removal, there are required mitigation requirements that don't go away for this as well. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
So I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-80 for property located at 1203 West Charter Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 sub F sub 4 of the city code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed that a reduction of the setbacks for the primary building structures will not allow for the tree to be saved. And additionally, the proposed building structures cannot be reasonably reconfigured in order to preserve the grand tree.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? So it passes 5-0.
So you took over.
All right. We've still got a couple more cases this evening, so we're going to move things right along. Ms. Barnes, would you do us the honor of introducing VRB 2185, please?
Yes, Anastasia Barnes, VRB 2185. The applicant and agent is Angela Robber, and the property owner is Joan Park et al. The property address is 404 South Royal Palm Way. Excuse me. The current zoning is RS 75, residential single family, and the request is to remove a grand tree and construct a single family dwelling. This is the subject site with surrounding zoning, which is residential. This is the proposed site plan, the alternative site plan, and the existing tree plan. Again, section 27-284.25 is the review for grand tree removal. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
All right. Is the applicant here? Come on up. Please state your name, your address, and confirm for us that you've been sworn.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, Tampa, Florida, and I have been sworn. I'm with the law firm of Hill Ward Henderson, and Angela Rauger from our office at Hill Ward Henderson is going to be making the presentation.
Good evening. My name is Angela Rauger. I am going to put this on let me know if it shows up properly. Okay. This is an application for a grand tree removal. There's no question that regarding the health of the tree, the issue is the placement of the tree, where it's located on the lot, and whether the reasonable reconfiguration standards apply. This is the site plan that shows, this is material that was in your packet, but it's taken a little bit out of order. But this is the site plan showing the buildable area, and it shows everything within the applicable setbacks. So that would be 25 feet in the front, 20 feet in the rear, and 7-foot setbacks on both sides. The circle you see here is the 20-foot root zone, which is the critical root zone for the 44-inch grand tree. This is a depiction of the proposed new home. As you can see, it's a 2-story home. Again, it fits within the buildable area, meets all applicable setbacks, meets the height standards for the district. The alternative plan that we submitted actually encompasses 2 different reconfiguration options that were considered for the site. The first option would be still a 2-story home, and the footprint of the building itself is reduced to accommodate the critical root zone. However, as you can see by the green boundary, that is the depiction of the canopy. And the tree, the 2-story structure would conflict with that canopy. So we went to another reconfiguration option. This reconfiguration option reduces the overall footprint. So again, losing additional square footage, but it removes a story from the structure. Going to the reasonable reconfiguration standards that are set forth in the ordinance. Actually, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is actually wrong with the tree. Sorry, I got ahead of myself just a bit. The impacts that are caused by the construction of the home are to both the root system and to the canopy system. I think that's very important to note that there are 2 different things that are at issue. So even if we can get past the first issue concerning the root, we would still be interfering with the canopy of the tree. And I've got to say, it would be to an extent that would damage the tree and lead to irreversible harm. Again, these are photos that you have available to you in your packet, but they're just presented in a little different format. This is a picture of the front of the house showing the large canopy that leans over the existing structure. Again, I have a copy of the actual tree code that we're looking at, and this is the section that allows for grand tree removal based on construction impacts. And we are looking at specifically the grand tree is going to be rendered hazardous because of the combination of sections A and C. So a little bit more detail about that. I'm going to go out of order just a bit and go to the checklist for that. So as you can see, there's a grand tree that has been rendered hazardous due to the impacts of the construction activity. The proposed building is within the allowed setbacks. It meets all standards for the district. And so you move next to whether there's a reasonable reconfiguration that would save the tree. And in this case, there is no reasonable reconfiguration that would avoid removing that second story. And in that case, you go back to the reasonable reconfiguration standards and can see that the applicant would not be required to remove a floor or a story of the building in order to meet that. So with that said, all of the criteria that are required for removal of the grand tree due to the construction of this two-story house have been met. And I'll leave it at that and see if we can get some time.
All right, so does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does.
All right, thank you. Are there any members of the audience who would like to speak on this petition? No? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up for board questions. Are there any board questions?
I have a question for Natural Resources in regards to the site plan number 3. With this tree having a root and trunk rated A and branch structure, twigs, foliage C, do you see that this third option would be rendered hazardous?
So I think with any of these plans.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Stephen Eister, Natural Resources. So I think with any of these plans, like that's been coming up with the new elevations and everything like that, this canopy's hanging right over the existing house. And on the back side, there's power lines. I don't know if they've told that. So with any house construction, it's going to take away a lot of the lower limbs, and it's not going to leave much of the canopy. So in my opinion, it would, maybe not like it's going to fall down tomorrow hazardous, but overall, the health of the tree will decline and will become hazardous over time.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from board members for the applicant or for the city staff? No? All right, seeing none, you have additional time for rebuttal if needed.
Because that question was asked, I'm going to refer back to this photo. It's in your packet, of course, and it does show that the limbs are, very close to the roof of the existing structure. But I have nothing else to add to that.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Just to clarify for the record, for the members of the public, there are 2 letters of opposition that the board did receive, and just for the record, they're from Nadine McPherson and Beth Wyson, Osiason. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
And if I could, Cammie Corbett for the record, just to comment on those letters, both of those letters refer to the hardship standard. As you all know, there was never a hardship standard for tree removal anyway. It was a different standard. It was reasonable use. We're now under reasonable configuration, so the hardship is, as you know, no longer a consideration. And with that, we have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All done?
Aye.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or discussion from the board.
I'll make a motion. I move that variance request for case VRB 2185 for property located at 404 South Royal Palm Way be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284-25F4 of the city code for granting tree removal. Specifically, that the evidence provided in the record showed that the reasonable configuration of the property is impacted by the presence of this tree, and that the property itself is odd shaped, which limits reconfiguration options, and that it would limit the ability to maximize the development of this site.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Pastor, second by Mr. Farrell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Petition is approved 6-0. Thank you. Not to jinx us, Ms. Barnes, but would you introduce the last petition for the evening?
Anastasia Barnes. The next application before you is 2187. The applicant, agent, and property owner is Michael Barn. Sorry. The property address is 2909 West Sitio Street, and the current zoning is RS50, residential single family. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 15 feet and reduce the side yard east setback from 7 feet to 5 feet 3 inches to construct an addition to a single family dwelling. Before you is an aerial of the subject property and surrounding zoning. As you can see, residential in nature. This is a view from the street of the subject property and the site plan submitted with the addition and project proposed. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Applicants, come on up. State your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn for us, please.
Thank you, guys. We'll try to be quick. My name is Michael Byrne. This is my fiance, Miriam Additon. She lives at the residence with me. We have been sworn in.
Address?
Well, address 2909 West Sitio Street, Tampa, Florida, 33629. That's why I got her. She's helping me. First off, I want to thank you for all your help. So nice to meet you in person. This is our first time doing this. This is our starter home. So we bought it back in August in 2020. It was built in 1936. So it's an older home with those, as you guys know, if you're from here, not a ton of living space, not a ton of closet space. So in looking at it, we've kind of thought we wanted to try and add a master bedroom to it to make up for some of that lost space. And in doing so, we're requesting this variance to have the setback from pretty much as minimum as possible from 20 feet to 15 feet from the rear setback to give us a modest master bedroom, but still allowing us enough room in the side yard of the property to give us adequate space to use the yard. There's also a setback on the side, but it's just a continuation of the current property line with the current house. So that's from 7 feet to 5.3 feet. This is going to help us not only from a master bedroom, but also closet space in that space. So it's going to give us hopefully some more room, and hopefully in the future for a growing family with another bedroom. Not to mention, since COVID, I now work from home, so to hopefully give us an office in one of the 2 current guest bedrooms. It's only going to be a 1-story addition. We're not looking to go 2 stories. You'll see on the site plan, there's one big laurel oak and then another tree, I don't know what type it is, but pretty close to the side. So if we were going to go up with a 2-story house, we definitely have to cut those back, if not potentially remove them. One's definitely on our property, but the other kind of splits right down the property line with our neighbor. We have letters, which I believe we submitted with the application. I don't know if you guys have them or not.
That was the one that we said to bring, right? We brought it up.
Please, please.
We have 3 letters from the north, so the 3 properties that would be affected by the variance. So the north property owner, the catty corner one, and then the east, that have all agreed to the site plan and the variance that we're asking for. I'll let you mess with that, because that's going to be fun.
Do you want us to put it up here?
Yeah, you can put them on there. That's great.
So
Thank
it's
you.
kind of just like a simple letter, but each neighbor reviewed it, all of them. So.
They didn't see the first one.
That's the first one.
Yep.
Second one. that's the third one.
Great. And you'll just provide those to city staff so that they can keep them in the record.
Awesome.
Can you provide to the clerk, please?
So, I mean, other than that, we really just want to be able to do this and have an adequate yard space. If we do it the other way to try to keep it within the setback, we lose kind of an adequate yard space to use. So that's the request, and that concludes our presentation.
I mean, I would say just
Never
add
mind.
one thing. A lot of the other, so our home is original to the neighborhood, which I really like. A lot of the other houses, they've been torn down, and these big, mega houses that are 2-story, 5,000 square foot. We're not looking to do that. We just want to basically make it functional and kind of be equivalent to other houses in the neighborhood. So hopefully that helps too.
Thank you.
For folks who are doing this for the first time, you did a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if that concludes your presentation, let's check and see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak this evening. I'm going to say no. So we'll open it up for any questions from the board. Any questions from the board?
I just have one out of curiosity. Do you have a floor plan of showing how you're going to get into that room?
Yes.
Yeah. It might be in the backpack. I mean, I can show it.
Tunnel,
via here.
underground?
Pretty much where the washer and dryer are currently. We're
Uh-huh.
going to stack it and just walk in
Okay.
there.
Hmm.
So we'd actually probably have, because this is kind of the living space of the house, which is really cool for one of these older houses, you can kind of walk in and see almost through the whole living space.
Yeah.
And then the sleeping, I mean, these are the 2 bedrooms, so we'd keep kind of the bedrooms and then open up that back space to have kind of a outdoor
Oh, okay.
space.
Yeah.
Is how we anticipate it working.
Got it. Looks good.
Architects got to know how everything works.
We had to think through that a little bit. So.
Ms. Hertak, did you have a question? No?
No, I was
Okay.
gonna.
I got you. All right, you have, if there's no other questions from the board, and it doesn't look like there are, you have 3 minutes if you need any time for rebuttal.
Nope, just thank you guys for all your help,
All right.
especially Anastasia.
Okay, Ms. Hertak, I'll recognize you because it looks
Okay.
like you're ready to go.
Yes, I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-87 for property located at 2909 West Sidios Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduced rear yard setback from 20 feet to 15 feet, a reduced side yard setback along the east property line from 7 feet to 5 feet 3 inches, with an encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the trees on the side of the house prevent them from going up, and that the east property line side yard setback will simply be following the setback for the rest of the main house.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, your motion is approved, 5-1.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, have a great evening.
You too.
Any other business from city staff?
None at this time.
No, just waving? All right, we are adjourned. That was impressive.
I think we should go back to the next.
Well, I used to walk you home, baby, after school, carry your books home too. But now you got a boyfriend that down the street. Baby, what you trying to do? You better slow down. Baby, you're moving way too fast. Oh, yeah, give me a little loving, give me a little loving. Did you want my love to last? Rock it around!